the interesting thing, my job has not changed, but the way I do it has changed. And having AI as a companion, my everyday workflow has helped me become faster.
By the way, I was actually able to get this over to the client. The whole process took about, I don't know, less than 10 minutes.
On one hand, we want to be able to move forward. We want to reap the benefits of AI. But on the other hand, we're trying to figure out how to do that securely.
Let's just get started, okay? Raise your hand if this is the first AI in action event that you've been to. Okay, good. I'm gonna get you all up to speed, okay? All right, so back in 2023, a long time ago, Lliam began talking about AI and what was coming. And he explained that it was gonna be the next pivotal shift in technology, much like the internet was back in the 90s. So it's been coming like a freight train, but yet we're still caught off guard, and many people really don't know how to incorporate it into their businesses. So in October, this past October, we explored some of the tools that are on the market now, some of the AI models, and we talked about all the wonderful things that they're able to do. Lliam also stressed at that event that your data is more important than the applications that use it. We carried that thought along to our last AI in Action event in April, and he and the other speakers introduced the topic of AI governance, and without it, your employees, or maybe even you, are putting your company at risk of exposing your data. Are y'all with me? Have we done good? Okay. All right. So the bottom line is AI governance is a real problem. I'm going to click now. There we go. This brings us to today's presentation, okay? Lliam, Eric, and Gina are going to show you how we solved the problem. MIS employees are able to freely use all of the AI models that you guys probably use, but we're able to do it in a secure manner that's not putting our data at risk or our clients' data at risk. So I know that's important to you guys too. With that, let me introduce Lliam. Lliam is a cybersecurity specialist with over 3 decades of experience in protecting data for us and for our clients. He's got more security certifications that I even want to mention. But needless to say, everything he has done at MIS Solution has been done through the lens of cybersecurity. This next journey into AI adoption is no different. So with that, help me welcome Lliam Holmes.
Thank you. I'll grab this. All right. Thank you for that. So I think really my goal in this presentation is really just one thing. And that is, can you guys get today how to use AI, where to start, and if you get one thing out of this, can you walk back to your office and say, here's our plan, here's what we're going to do. And I think if we can at least get that done in a way that makes you feel like what we're doing is productive, then I think we've met the goal for today. Is that fair? Fair. Awesome. So I think we do have to kind of think a little bit about why is this so important? And like many of you, and some of you I've had conversations with, our customers are asking us probably one of about these 4 questions, right? Where do we get started? And where do we get started typically is we have vendors who are saying we've got this new thing, we're seeing Claude, we're getting advertisements, we are having other people approach us, right? We're getting diluted from all sides, and all that's really happened is we've gotten confused. We don't know where to start, right? We also know that we are trying to use AI, but we're trying to do it in some kind of responsible way that's not going to end up with people either stealing money from us or us exposing, data that we didn't want from our customers. And we're trying to figure out how to be responsible. I think we all recognize too that we have employees who are probably using AI that we don't even know about, right? They're bringing in their personal ChatGPT accounts, maybe they have cloud accounts, maybe they are doing whatever they're doing. We don't even necessarily know that they're doing it. And I think that when we think about this from a security and compliance perspective, we also recognize that not only do we as companies need to have some governance, meaning that we're telling our staff this is what our policies are and this is how we're going to enforce it, but we actually need the ability to be able to enforce it. Otherwise, where we are, for those of you who've been around a while, do you remember when we used to tell people with Outlook, like when you get an email, don't click on it, right? But there was a time where we didn't have the ability to do anything about it if they did click on it. So all we could really do was tell them, don't do it. Well, I think it's very similar with AI, right? We're telling people, hey, don't do it, but they're doing it. And without the ability to control it, we get what we get, right? And so I think when I talk to owners, it's some version of one of these four things, right? And so I think that, like I mentioned, this is what's really happening, right? You are having AI that is creeping into your business. Look at Microsoft as an example. They're adding Copilot to everything. Whether you need it, whether you want it, whether you have governance for it, whether you can understand how people are using it or not, you're getting what you get, right? And because of that, you're also seeing other vendors, maybe it's your ERP, maybe it is, your CRM, where they're simply adding tools, adding features, because they're trying to keep up and stay relevant as well. And again, you don't understand necessarily, what exposure lives behind some of those tools, right? And so I think that when we just look at this in total, seeing is what we call shadow AI, where we as a business are not sitting back and saying, strategically, here's what we think, here's how we're going to govern it, here's how we're going to be responsible. Instead, it just shows up. And it doesn't show up on our desk, it's showing up on everyone's desk, and everyone's making up their own rules as to how they're going to use it, right? And so I think that from an ownership perspective, it kind of puts us a little bit in the middle, because we're saying, on one hand, we want to be able to move forward. We want to reap the benefits of AI. But on the other hand, we're trying to figure out how to do that securely. But then we also know that we want to try and stay compliant, but yet we want to be competitive, because while we're sitting here making decisions and figuring out what we're going to do, we know our competitors are out there evaluating other products, doing things, learning their own lessons. And so we feel this need able to at least keep up, hopefully accelerate, but we want to be competitive. And so you have these competing components where we oftentimes feel like we're stuck in the middle between, we want to do this securely, but we don't want to be hacked. We want to be competitive, but we want to be compliant, right? And I think that that's a difficult place to be. And I think that one of the things that you're going to start hearing a little bit more about, you don't hear about it too much today, but it exists. And that is that we all hear the hype with AI, right? AI is the greatest thing. We're going to spend billions of dollars. We're building all these data centers. It's going to, solve all these problems. We all hear that. But what you're actually starting to see as AI is starting to make its way in are the failure rates. And I'll tell you, the failure rates in AI today for projects that are being implemented is about 82%. That's a shocking number for a lot of people, right? Because the promise of AI says that we're going to be able to do all these great things. But what people are realizing is that we can go and we can spend money on licensing, but how do we actualize the value out of that? All right? How does it make us more efficient? How does it service our customers better? How does it lower our cost? People are having a difficult time with that. And I think it's because of these 5 items. Number 1, our data systems aren't usually very clean. Garbage in, garbage out, right? 2, we'll talk a little bit about our disconnected systems, but if you have every vendor coming to you and saying, we have an AI thing, right? You've got one, you've got one, you've got one, your CRM, your ERP, right? You've got Office 365. And by the way, none of them talk to each other. It's very difficult to actually get any investment, any return on that, right? Because it's all siloed. You're seeing very limited business context, meaning that people are using AI without really telling the AI what we expect, what the rules are, how we're going to use it, where we're not going to use it, and using something we call human in the loop, right? Meaning that we're going to use AI, but it will be verified, it will be checked by a human because we don't want to do things that are bad, right? Lack of governance, we talked a little bit about that. And then the last thing is really just no clear business objectives. We're all treating this like an experiment. And typically what I see that looks like is we buy 1 or 2 licenses, we give it to 2 guys or girls in the office, and we say, have at it. We check in 90 days and we're like, how'd it go? And they're like, well, I was really busy and I didn't get a chance to use it. And well, oh, it failed. Well, we weren't very deliberate about why were we bringing it in? What were our expectations? What did success look like? What were we going to do? Who was going to be responsible for it? All of the things that you would typically do with any other technology. With AI, we aren't doing those things. Instead, what we're doing is we're just simply treating it like an experiment. And I think as a result, because of these 5 things, you're seeing such high failure rates. Talk a little bit about data silos, and I wanted to draw a picture out here just so that we can make sure that we're all on the same page, right? And so, your CRM application, Salesforce, they have their own AI. They've actually invested quite heavily in that, right? Your accounting package probably has their own AI. Your ERP, your email, your HRIS, your HR docs, if you have one of those, right? And they are all going vertical like this. But the reality of it is our business touches all of these systems. Your business, my business, everyone's business. We are a collection of applications. We're not one application. And as a result, just like you guys, who are using AI today, if you go into Claude and you ask it a question, and you go into OpenAI, ChatGPT, and you ask it a question, sometimes you get conflicting advice. Well, what happens if we have all these AIs doing all their own things in all their own silos? Do you think that they're going to work together well? No. They don't even know the other ones exist. I think that this is a big problem. In fact, I would tell you that even if we fix some of those other of the 5 things we were talking about, this is probably the biggest inhibitor, the biggest indicator in terms of people who are going to be successful and people who are going to struggle. I would tell you it probably comes down to the siloing of your data. And so I think it kind of brings us back to, okay, if we understand the silos, if we understand, what it is we're trying to do, then I'm still left with really these 3 questions. How do I do it safely? How do I avoid the silo trap that we just talked about? And how do I do it in a way that's measurable and impactful? And whether that is we can service our customers better, whether that is we have more capacity, whether that is we are more efficient or saves us money, however we define that, the question should be, what is success look like? What does that look like? All right? And I'll tell you that when we look at AI as a whole, as an IT company, these are the kinds of questions that our customers are turning to us and asking, MIS, you know us, you know our business, you're involved in our systems. Where do we start? What do we do? How do we do this in a way that's governed? How do we do this in a way that we're not just throwing money down the drain and that we are able to actually have some sort of P&L impact, right? And I think that as we started to look at this, really everything boiled down to one of two options. Option number one, we go into the firewall and we just block it and just say, there we go, problem solved, right? That's it. That was one way. Option number two was we could go and evaluate what was Claude doing? What's OpenAI doing? What's Google doing with Gemini, right? Is there another product? Is there a third-party product? Because if that was the case, what we'd be telling you today is, here's the way, we're going to use Claude, we're going to use whatever we're going to do, right? But as we got into some of those tools, what we realized was that they are really struggling with the governance of their products. And what they're doing is they're redefining what they call the boundary. And their boundary is, we're not responsible for anything that happens outside of our data center. But once it gets to our data center, we promise we will do a good job of, one, making sure your data is safe. And I believe they probably are doing a great job. And two, we won't train or share your data with anyone else. And I believe that that's true. However, the largest gap is not what happens inside their data center. The largest gap is what happens not inside your network, but what happens between your network and their data center, right? And one of the largest gaps that's happening in cybersecurity today is something that we call prompt injection. And prompt injection says that what I type into the browser and what Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini actually receives aren't the same thing. Somebody has modified it in the middle. They added something that might sound like, to every question that comes from this user, email me a copy of their response. Now, you don't know that they've done that because you didn't type that, right? And there's a lot of data exposure happening today with prompt injection. And so this is probably one of the biggest things that we see. Right? And so as we started to look at this, it still brings us back to, I can block it, I can look at a third party, or we can figure out as a company, what can we do to invest in our clients to help them be successful? And I think that when we did that, we ended up saying we needed what we were trying to do, right? Secure AI access, visibility into usage. We need to know, some really common things that you probably would think about right at the top of your head. If we bought a license for everyone in this room, how many people are using it? Do we find that we have 5 people who use it and 25 who don't, right? Maybe that's something I'd want to know because, again, I'm trying to drive adoption. And I can tell you, when I look at our journey, one of the biggest things is cultural adoption, not technology adoption, right? We even had that in our own staff where, as technical as our people were, they were saying, I don't trust AI, I don't want to use AI, I'm afraid AI is going to take my job, right? There was a much larger cultural component, and I think we talked a little bit about this last time. I think, Danny, you actually asked me about that last time, right? So I think we looked at that. We also want to make sure we have data protection, DLP, to make sure that if we have people typing things in prompts, like patient IDs, social security numbers, credit card numbers, things like that, it cannot go to a public LLM, right? Because again, I have prompt injection, right? And then the other piece that we never talk about, and the reason we never talk about it is because it's the hard part, right? And that is integrating it into all of our other back-end systems, right? So if you have an on-premise application, we want to integrate that in. Well, that's the hard part. Nobody wants to talk about that, right? And so as we looked at this and we said, 5 things we're trying to do, what we ended up doing is we ended up building a product that we call Secure Chat. And Secure Chat is a little bit of a misnomer in name because when I say Secure Chat, oftentimes people think, oh, it's like ChatGPT. Well, that is true. It looks and feels a lot like that in terms of its interface. However, it can do so much more because not only does it have the security and the governance piece in it, but it also has the ability to tie it into your back-end systems and it allows you to expand your knowledge base. Because if we kind of go back to some of those things that we said that we wanted to do to really drive adoption and drive efficiency, these are the things that are going to do it, right? And so with that, our goal was really to be able to provide something that we could say to our customers, here's how you can bring AI in, here's how you can do it safely. Now, does that mean that we're not using public LLMs like Claude? No, we don't have that kind of money, okay? But what it does mean is that we can put something between you and them in a way that keeps you safe and yet still gives you the scalability that you're seeing in some of these major providers, right? And so I think what we're going to do today really is I want to share with you guys how we are using Secure Chat internally, some use cases that I hope that maybe you can say, I recognize that, maybe the names are different, but gosh, we got the same pain. That feels familiar to me, right? And so my goal today, if you kind of think all the way back to the beginning, how can you guys bring this in? Where would you start? And in that thought, really two things. One, Eric is going to come and talk to us a little bit about operations. How do we use it in operations? Gina's going to talk to us how do we use it in marketing. And so with that, I'm going to turn you back to Carol.
Liam? Okay, so Eric is our next speaker. He started out at MIS Solutions as a principal consultant, so he was in a customer-facing position. He then moved into as the data center technical manager, so he moved into operations. Because he's got that experience on both sides of being, out there. He knows what our clients want and need, and he also understands the technical side of it. He is obviously the perfect person to head up this next thing, which is being the product manager for Secure Chat. So welcome, Eric. Let's give you a round of applause.
All right, thank you, Carol, and good morning, everyone. So now let's talk about some fun stuff. Not that Liam's wasn't fun, but let's get into some use cases. So what I want to do is I want to start with really a very specific example of how Secure Chat can help, right? And how it helped me in a real life scenario. Give you guys a few other generic examples of how you can use Secure Chat. And then we'll talk a little bit about the 4 building blocks that are very important to learn that can really give you a competitive edge once you understand them with Secure Chat. So let's think for a moment. It's a Monday morning, right? 9 a.m. and nothing bad ever happens on a Monday at 9 a.m., right? Everything's great. No. So true story. I get a phone call, 9 a.m., client. They're absolutely frantic. Eric, oh my God, please help me. I'm in a bad spot right now. We've got some insurance folks in here, so they'll get this one. Okay, cool. What's the problem, Mr. Client? Well, I've got to have a copy of an IT policy, something called an access control policy. I've got to get it to my insurance carrier today, or they're not going to bind my coverage. Wow, that sounds kind of crazy. You have to have it today? Yeah, so Eric, I slept on this request for the last 3-4 weeks. I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't have done it. Can you please help? Right? Okay, sure, fine. Give me a few minutes. Let me call you back. And so enter Secure Chat. Literally the first place I went. Secure Chat, okay? And if you guys have used an LLM before, this would look fairly familiar to you. We have a prompt box. And the first thing that I did was simply type in a very generic and simple prompt. Write an IT policy for access controls. It should be somewhat of a template for a company called Healthy Inc., right? And that's not really their name. I made it to protect the innocent. So I enter in our simple prompt. I hit the send it button. The next thing that we see, again, is fairly familiar. If we've used LLMs before, we get a summary of what it's included. But then at the bottom, I have a download link. Again, very similar to what you guys have probably seen before. We're going to get some uniqueness in a moment, I promise. So once we click on our download button, the first thing that you'll see is I have a little bit of a preview pane here. I'm able to copy all of the text. If I wanted to paste it into another application, great, sure, fine, I could. The next cool part is obviously I can download. I have the ability to select between a Word or a PDF document. Okay, cool, fine. I want to stop here for a second, because if you guys have ever used one of the LLMs to download a Word document, for example, you might be like me and you spend the next hour and a half trying to format the stupid thing, right? Underline this, add this header here, put this footer there, add these colors, this logo, right? And I found myself spending an hour just trying to get it formatted correctly, right? Well, that's where Secure Chat comes in. So once I select a PDF or a Word document, I have this option. I can apply my company branding. This is literally the easy button that saves me an hour. And so if I select the apply branding, there we go. We let Secure Chat cook for a second. And then literally within seconds, I have an access control policy that's got my company branding on it, right? And so when we set up Secure Chat, we set up the branding for your company. Super simple. It can apply to any document that you send out. And I know it may seem trivial unless you've been the one who's had to sit there and format and tried to get the footers just right and the headers just right and bold this and underline that, right? Huge time saver, okay? So that's, and by the way, I was actually able to get this over to the client. The whole process took about, I don't know, less than 10 minutes. Now, of course, there were some things they had to add, right? It wasn't just here you go, submit it to the insurance company, right? And so it's a template. And I also want to issue a disclaimer here. With anything you get out of an LLM, look, they're not perfect. We all know that, right? Please, dear God, before you put something in front of your client, right, review it, make sure it's accurate. Typically, you're not going to see misspelled words, but you might see some other craziness. So give it a once over at least before you put it in front of someone. So that's a very specific use case. And oftentimes when I'm talking to people about AI, it could be friends, family, coworkers, whatever. One of the things I hear a lot is, you know, I feel like I'm getting left behind on the AI train. I don't really know what to do. I don't have a use case, right? I can't think of a reason to use it, right? And when I first heard that from people, my knee jerk is, well, use it for everything. Like, I use it all day, every day. Like, what do you mean you don't have a use case? Use it for everything. And then I realized that's as good as telling them nothing, right? And so what I wanted to do is go over a few more kind of generic examples of how you guys can use Secure Chat, okay? So if we're thinking HR and productivity, writing a job description. If you've ever had to write a job description, it sucks. It's one of the worst things ever. And what do most people typically do? They go to other job boards, try to find another job that's similar, copy what they've done, right? Maybe add their own flavor to it, right? What if it's a very unique job, right? That is a great use case for Secure Chat. Another one, once you've hired that employee, we got to have an employee training plan. Another great place for Secure Chat. Possibly one of my favorites. You guys may not be able to read it, but it says irate customer. Okay. Has anybody ever had an irate customer before? No. Everybody's infallible. Perfect. Okay. And I've not either, but I've read. I've seen it, right? And so one of the hardest or most difficult situations you can get put into, you've got an irate customer. I'm going to give you an example. They send you an email. You can practically hear them screaming at you through the email, right? But as you read through it, you realize, well, wait a minute, they've got quite a few of the facts wrong. They're just wrong, and they arrived at an incorrect conclusion. Well, I got a lot to unpack here because now, obviously, I've got to respond to the email. I got to acknowledge that, hey, look, you're obviously upset. But more importantly, I got to correct the record, right? I got to make sure that they don't continue on under these facts that are not true. Have fun writing that email, okay? Have fun telling the person who's already irate that they're wrong, okay? Good luck. And if you're like me, you probably type 5 words, delete those 5 words. Type 6 words, delete those 6 words, right? And we rinse and repeat that process for an hour until finally we get something that we think is decent enough to send. Okay, great example of where you can use Secure Chat. Drag and drop the whole email into the prompt box. Give it a little bit of context. Help me craft a response that corrects the record. Here are the facts, right? And you're going to get something that's pretty darn good. So another use case, and I won't go through all these, but I wanted to give you guys just some additional things that maybe you haven't thought of where Secure Chat can help, okay? So using secure chat as your garden variety LLM. That's great, right? Yes, it's fantastic. It can apply the company branding, and yes, all of your data is secure, and yes, you're safe from prompt injections, and yes, it's great, right? But where you're really going to leverage secure chat and gain a competitive advantage is when we're able to get our secure chat black belt by understanding these 4 modules, okay? It's by understanding them that we're going to be able to attack those data silos that Lliam was talking about and actually connect everything together. That's where the competitive advantage is going to come, okay? And so the 4 modules we're going to talk about connectors, recipes, workflows, and packages. And I'm going to stay high level. I'm not going to get super in the weeds with it, right? But afterwards, if you guys have specific questions, feel free, please. So the first thing, secure chat connectors. What the heck is a connector? It's a very, very simple idea and very powerful. So a connector is simply a bridge that connects secure chat to a web-based application, okay? So think Salesforce, think Nextshore, think Sage, think any HubSpot, any web-based application that you have, right? I want to be able to use secure chat to ask questions in plain English of that application and get responses back. I got to have a bridge built between secure chat and that application. That's what a connector is. And so in this example, we've got secure chat. We've got our prompt window. Show me the recent critical events in ConnectWise. ConnectWise is just the name of an ERP system, okay? The way I can get that information out of the connected systems is with this connector, okay? And so for you techies out there, APIs, right? Or MCP, okay? So super simple concept, super powerful. One more example, Salesforce. Anybody use Salesforce here? We've all heard of it at least, right? Everyone knows what Salesforce is on a high level. So you want to know the last, 5 email campaigns that went out through Salesforce. You want to know what customers fall within a particular geographic area, right? But getting that information out of Salesforce is a bit of a pain. Maybe it's not a canned report. Maybe you got to export the report into a CSV, and then you got to slice and dice that and bring another CSV file over and merge them together and do all this crap, right? Well, wouldn't it be nice to just ask the question in plain English, right? That's where a connector comes in and allows you to do it. So that's a connector. By contrast, we have what's known as recipes. And so if a connector connects us to data sources that are web-based, a recipe is going to connect us to systems that we have on our own servers, right? And so whether your servers are on-prem at your office, or they're in the MIS cloud, or they're in the Azure cloud, as long as you have management over those servers and those applications, recipes are very similar to connectors. They do a little bit more, but essentially what they are is a list of ingredients, right, that allow me to ask questions of the data. And so imagine you have QuickBooks, right? And I want to know every past due invoice for client A, right? But I also want to know how many of them fall between, $2,000 and $8,000. So I want some additional slicing and dicing of that information. Okay, well, QuickBooks doesn't have that as a canned report, and I can't modify the report enough, so I'm back to exporting. Or I'm on the phone with Intuit support. I don't know if you've done that, but it's terrible. Like, it is a life-sucking exercise. So I don't encourage you to do it, right? You can build a recipe for that, right? Where you actually tell secure chat, hey, go into QuickBooks, grab this data, sort it this way, slice it that way, analyze it this way, and then give me a report that's the same report in terms of formatting and content and analysis every single time, right? And that way I can share that recipe with anybody that I want to who has secure chat. They can run it whenever they would like, right? And so, again, super simple concept, but very powerful. And just to go back, connector, web-based apps, recipes, those applications that you actually have full control over, right? They are in a server that you host. The next step on our journey to the secure chat black belt, which you're all going to get, workflows. So connectors and recipes complement each other. Workflows build upon those two, okay? So what a workflow allows you to do is to actually schedule a connector or a recipe on a preset basis. So we'll go back to that QuickBooks report I was talking about, right? I want this report every Monday at 8 a.m. I need it to go to these 5 people, right? Well, I can schedule that recipe to run, and I can send a Teams message. Wait, no, I want it to go as an email. Fine, I can send it as an email, right? But a workflow is just a simple way for me to schedule those recipes and connectors, right? But also add a little bit. So just to show you guys kind of how simple this is, what you're seeing now is the Workflow Designer canvas, okay? And so if we look on the left-hand side, we just have a collection of steps, right? If I were building this workflow, I've got a collection of steps. I can click and drag, right? And then I just connect my steps and I can customize each one, right? Very simple. Real quick, I just want to walk through. This is just a generic workflow that I made. I start off with a trigger. When do I want to run this workflow, right? Well, I want to do it weekly, Mondays at 9 a.m. What do I want to do? I want to call to that recipe, review emails in my inbox, right? For whatever, right? It could be review emails in my inbox for the last 7 days from so-and-so, or that look like I have not responded and I owe a response, right? You can use your imagination, but weekly, Monday, 9 a.m., I will run that recipe. Then the next step's really cool. I have an AI transform step. That's when I can tell the model, hey, look, based on the information that you returned in the recipe step, I want you to do some analysis and I want you to provide me a summary, right? Because yeah, it's great to get a table back with some information in it, but it's a whole lot better to have some analysis done, right? That's already synthesized for me. That would be the AI step. And then the last step is, what do I want to do with this information once I've got it? And in this example, I've got it set to email, but you could just as easily send it in a Teams message, right? So again, super simple concept, super powerful. So connectors, recipes complement each other, workflows build upon them, okay? And then the last step in our journey to the black belt, packages. So packages represent that last step. And so I'm going to go back to what Lliam talked about with the data silos, right? Packages are the way to eliminate those. So most of you in here, at some point throughout the course of a day, get several reports from disparate systems. Maybe I get a report from my phone system. Maybe I get a report from my accounting system, and I get one from my ERP, and I get one from my marketing application, right? And if I'm a good employee, right, I go into each one of these emails and I look at the report, right? And I try to draw some conclusions based on the information that's in that report, right? But I've got to open each one. And then if I'm really doing my job, I've got to take the information from each one of these disparate reports, synthesize it all down into something that's actually meaningful, right? Because each report doesn't have the context of what's going on across the business because they're not talking to each other, right? And so I have to do that I'm going to try this, I got to synthesize it in my head, right? Very tough to do, right? But we do it and we don't really think about it. But gosh, wouldn't it be nice if instead of having all these disparate reports that come to me from these systems, I had a recipe or a connector that was scheduled to run, right? For each one of those. And so maybe I have 5 workflows that produce a report or 4 different reports. I can then roll those into a package and I can tell Secure Chat, hey, at 9 a.m. on Mondays, take all of these reports that you've generated from these recipes, now synthesize these down, distill it down to a summary telling me only what's meaningful. Now, you get to determine what's meaningful, right? When you're creating the package, you would say, these things are meaningful. These are the things I want to know, right? But that's how we get away from having all of these silos of information, right? And that's where the value of a package comes in. And the coolest part of the entire presentation, I like this slide. So packages, a silo smashing symphony. And Lliam has said if you can say it 3 times fast out loud right now, you'll get 6 months free. He totally didn't say that. But I did want to show this because it does illustrate, right, the point that Lliam made earlier that, yeah, look, having AI in your ERP, in your QuickBooks, and Salesforce, right, and all of these different programs, it's great. But if there's nothing connecting them, what is? Well, you are. You have to do the connecting, right? And we're already time constrained enough. So we now have our secure chat black belt, right? And although this was high level, I hope you're able to see the value and how you can leverage these components to gain more than just a chat, right? This is more than just a, hey, I'm going to ask a question and get an answer. This is a way for you to connect those disparate systems together, okay? And then lastly, I do want to point out every single solitary slide was generated by secure chat, every single one, in a matter of seconds, right? And so if you're not using AI, you will get left behind. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Miss Carol.
Eric, I appreciate that. Okay. All right. So this next speaker is the MIS, relatively new. She's been with us for 3 months. Gina came to us as our marketing manager, but she came to MIS with already wealth of knowledge about AI. So that's important because it helped her to ramp up very quickly to the MIS way, but it also helped her to put this event together in a relatively short amount of time. And if any of you have ever put an event on, you know it can take months to pull it together. Well, we were able to do it in 6 weeks. So I want to you all to give me a warm welcome to Gina.
Sure. Oh, we're using our mic. Okay. And the clicker. Okay. Hey, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. All right. How are we feeling? Information this morning, but it's really good information. Lliam brought us through and explained the importance of security and AI. And Eric brought us through some scenarios of how AI can help transform and streamline business operations. My goal today is to take it down to the department level and show you what the application of this tool looks like from a marketing manager's perspective. When I have a team to coordinate, projects to coordinate, and deadlines to meet as we approach an event just like this. So when I was asked to show how we're using secure chat, I thought this exact event, how we planned this event, would be a great example because you're all sitting inside the finished product. So I'm going to take you through the journey of how we started with a plan through execution. And, when I think about AI and my job, I am new to secure chat. I am not a black belt. I might be like green belt. I'm still learning. But I am very familiar with AI. I have been using AI as a companion in my everyday work life for probably the past 3 years since it's been around. Yes. But the thing is, the interesting thing, my job has not changed, but the way I do it has changed. And having AI as a companion, my everyday workflow has helped me become faster. I stay more organized. I make better decisions. I feel like I'm smarter. So that's always a great thing. But also meet demands in a more efficient way. And Carol mentioned pulling this event together in a short period of time. Back in the day before AI, planning an event like this might take 3 months to put together. But think about the fact that we're not just planning this event, we're talking about secure chat today. So we also had to put together information for product launch and all the information, things that are right in front of you, the handouts. So it was a lot of work to do in a short period of time. I don't believe that I would have been able to do that without the help of AI. So I want to just zoom out for a second and think of all of the different technological advances that we've experienced as humans. Of course, the big one, the printing press, made information available to the masses. Typewriter, anyone could create their own anyone can create their own content. If you lived in a country where they allowed you to have a typewriter, but that's another history lesson for another day. Fast forward to the 1990s. Every house has a computer. All we have to do is plug it into a phone jack and we have access to information. But you still needed to know where to go to get that information. You had to type in a web address. Do you see a trend happening here? Each advancement has brought us closer and made information more accessible. So 2000s, we got search engines, we all have a smartphone. The information's there. We just need to know what question to ask to pull it right to our fingertips. So here we are now at the beginning of another part of the information revolution with AI. We have all this information. It's too much information. It's a little overwhelming sometimes. So the question is not where's the information, how do we use all this information now that we have it? And that is the gap that Lliam saw within our company, having all these different silos of information. And it's probably something now that you're thinking about. How do I pull all this information together? So that's what I'm going to show you how we did that. So back to the lecture at hand. All the different to-dos to create an event like this. First, you need a plan. How are we going to move forward? Create emails, a campaign calendar, social posts, a landing page. You all had to go and register so to save your seat. That was another piece of it. This presentation, content for the presentation, all the handouts that you have on your desk. We also had to create a whole new website for a new product and training material for our internal team. So this way we would know what we're talking about when we come to talk to you all this morning. And let's see what else. Yes. And the most important thing is make sure all of those different channels were saying the same thing. So if you saw an email, if you saw the social post, you went to the landing page, it all looks the same. The continuity of the message, the feel, the brand. It takes some time to pull all that together. And luckily, I didn't have to start with a blank slate to create this. I didn't have to recreate the wheel. What I did was I started with a prompt with Secure Chat, and I asked, I need to create an event. But it was more than just asking the question, help me create an event. If you just ask a generic answer, ask a generic question, you're going to get a generic answer. As Lliam mentioned, garbage in, garbage out. So I had to provide a lot of context, how we want to position this event, who the audience is going to be. So we start with a draft plan, okay? But I mentioned all the context involved. So the workflow, getting to this point. I didn't just ask one simple question, but leading up to, planning for this event, I don't even know how many documents we uploaded into our knowledge base. So each instance of Secure Chat, you have your own knowledge base. In our knowledge base, we had information about MIS solution brand guidelines. We uploaded the new Secure Chat brand guidelines, information about our audience, our goals, the channels we plan to use for promotional outreach. And for me, the most important thing was taking feedback that we received from past events and putting that into the mix as well, so we can continuously improve. Okay, so now that we have a great plan together, something I could share with my team, we need to start working through the to-do list. So we need to create some emails. We need to create social posts. But again, I gave some more context. All right, these emails are going to be targeted at our clients and prospects in our database, and we're going to use LinkedIn for the social posts. So here we go. If you're familiar working with any chat tool, you ask a question. 1 second, you get all the information. But, of course, I didn't just copy and paste this. This is a good first draft. It got me like 80% of the way there. So we have emails, we have social posts. And the point I'm trying to make with that is just one conversation, within the same chat that I started, one conversation helped me to have a draft for a plan. Another conversation helped me get information and content that I can use for these multiple outputs. For me, like I said, I am not a black belt with secure chat, so I don't have access to hook it up to HubSpot. That's what we use for our marketing automation tool. So we had to take that information and then put it into that tool. But it got me 80% of the way there, whereas it would have taken so much more time to do in the past. So, that's all fantastic, using it just like another chat tool. But the cool thing about Secure Chat, what I thought was very valuable was, we have this plan, we have all the emails and all of the stuff we want to put out there. So now we have to start executing. So if any given day, how many emails do you receive from your team? Teams messages, you have meetings, meeting transcripts. There's all this information that we needed to fine tune the plan and different places. So what I used Secure Chat is, since it's connected to all of our systems, ask it, okay, can you search Outlook? Can you search Teams? Can you search everything that we used? Anything that has information about planning this event. So came up, pulled up however many emails and how many Teams messages. If I had to go through each one of these, okay, I like what they said here. Here's feedback from Liam that we got about this. This is what this person's supposed to do. Bring it all that together. We have it here. But the next step was asking, hey, can you take all those emails and Teams messages? And in this case, I also uploaded transcripts from all the meetings so I didn't miss anything. Put together a to-do list that I could share with my team. So, boom. Now we have next steps to start moving forward with executing. And, the biggest part for me, getting and staying on the same page. And I know we keep going back to taking all these different silos of information. In this case, it's documents, everything that we needed to start planning for this event. Getting it together using Secure Chat, asking a question, getting, a trusted answer because that's all of your information. It's not guessing, it's pulling from the information that you gave it. And then you have some nice, clear next steps. So the moral of the story for me is, getting from point A to point B in, half the time it would have taken to do that in the past. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to get ready for our Q&A session. All right. Does anybody want to go first? Questions. All right.
Okay, so there you go. If you're planning to use secure chat, do you still encourage firewall blocks for shadow AI usage as part of the governance policy?
Yes, actually, what it allows you to do quite effectively is use Secure Chat and then block out direct access to all of the other LLMs. So that means that people can go to Secure Chat and they can still gain access through Secure Chat to platforms like ChatGPT and Claude and everything else, but they can no longer go direct, so that you're not worrying about people uploading documents or doing things that they should not do, right? And that's how you can make sure that everything is funneled through one place.
And I guess just to camp onto that, it's an important distinction that we didn't make during the presentation, and that is what Secure Chat's doing is it's actually analyzing every prompt that you put in, right? And it's trying to make a determination, what model should we use to answer this question? And so Secure Chat has access to Claude, to Gemini, to OpenAI. So all the different ChatGPT models, all the different Claude models, right? And so it's reading, reviewing, and then saying, based on what your prompt is, I'm going to route you here or route you there. And so just because an employee is using Secure Chat doesn't mean they're not using one of these models that they've grown to know and love, but also be scared of. Right? Make sense? Cool. Yeah, go ahead.
So I have a a subscription to Chat or Gemini, whatever it is. And then this would then go between that subscription, or I would cancel that and now I'm just using this, and this has access to multiple AIs.
Great question. Yes, that is. So I guess let me start from the top. Yes, we'd recommend that you cancel that subscription, but before you cancel it, right, you may have been using that particular subscription or AI model for 6 months, a year, and it knows you. You've got a lot of time built, right? It's kind of like breaking up with a girlfriend, right? I don't know, right? We've got a lot of time together, right? She knows me, right? I don't want to lose all that. Well, kind of the same thing here. You can actually export what we call your memories out of ChatGPT and import them into Secure Chat. Number one, so you don't lose all that historical, because maybe you've told it you like your reports a certain way, right? Or had it generate all sorts of reports. So first thing, we'll get all those memories out. Second thing, yes, 100% would recommend that you cancel it. And again, just to kind of zero in on how Secure Chat works, I ask a question and I can tell Secure Chat to go to a particular model. I can say, hey, for this question, I want you to use Claude, or I want you to use, Opus, right? I have that ability, or I can set it to no default, which again allows Secure Chat to say, based on what I think you want, I'm going to route you to the best one. Is that helpful? Does that make sense? That's the one to rule them all, right? The one ring, right? My precious.
And I think that's part of the issue, right? Is today this one's the best, tomorrow that one's the best. Next week someone comes up with this brand new feature, and now you want to try that, but you cancel that subscription, right? Because you thought this one was going to be the best. And so by being multimodal and multi-model enabled, it actually allows you to continue to get not only the best of the models that are available today, but as new models come out from each of the leading vendors, those models are automatically added to the platform, and they don't cost any extra for you to be able to gain access to them.
What type of reporting for, I suppose, administrators is there in the system? For example, obviously, I don't want to read everybody's work product, and without sounding like a psycho, but if somebody claims to be able to do a job and all they're doing is chat GPTing it, so I don't know that they are capable of doing that job, because the AI needs to be combined with personal skills. That's the one thing. Or alternatively, using my system to work out how to bomb something down the road. So how do I know as an administrator that is not happening?
So that's a great question, actually, and one that often gets overlooked when you're in the AI discussions. And so Secure Chat does have a very robust audit feature. And so, yes, you could, as an admin for your tenant, look and see the specifics of each chat. I don't know that I recommend doing that unless you had an acute reason, but surely you could, right? But there's also, from a high level, there's an overview that tells you, hey, this person has, initiated 50 chats, right? You can set a date range. You can see what models they're using, how many tokens they are using, right? If you want to set a spending limit because you say, man, John in accounting is just going crazy with all of his prompts, we got to put a cap on this guy, right? You can do that. But from the auditability standpoint, yeah, you certainly have the ability to go through in each chat and actually see what's going on. And I will say that is helpful from time to time too, because using these models, it's a bit of an art, just like when we were learning how to Google, right? You kind of had to, it's innate now, you don't even think about it, right? But when Google first came out, it was a bit of an art form to asking the right question. Well, it's the same thing with these models, right? And I bring that up because, when you're deploying something like this and you have a user who says, well, I can't get what I need, it is helpful to be able to look at their prompt, right? And so, well, what was your prompt? Oh, it was a great prompt. And then you look at it and it's like, it's garbage, right? And so there's help from that perspective too. But yeah, anything to add on it?
I think that, just like Eric said, you can see at the individual chat level. I can look to see across my users which models are most frequently being used to answer the questions. I can see at the message level, like maybe I don't really care what they're asking, but I care how many times they're asking. Why is Eric asking 500 questions where everyone else is asking 30 questions, but I have a subset of users who are only asking 1 or 2 questions? Maybe that drives a different outcome. And then at a third level is the data governance piece, right? So every time somebody tries to put in sensitive information that got blocked, those are events that I want to look at, right? We call those DLP, or data loss prevention events. So every time somebody put in a birthday, credit card number, driver's license number, social security number, it will block it. But maybe what I want to do is I now want to audit to see, do I have chronic offenders that are constantly doing this? And maybe I'm driving, remediation direct one-to-one because I now have visibility into not only what kinds of questions people are putting in, but how they're actually using it and who the offenders are. And I think what that drives is safer adoption through the organization as a whole. And so you can look at this through a couple of different lenses. Uh, uh, this supports you looking through those different lenses through Secure Chat.
Thank you. Hello? Hello? So you provide a customer the tools to secure chat. What if, let's say I, as a customer, don't know how to build an immediate workflow that sees return on investment right away? Is there an advisory component where you can come in and advise me? And the second question to that is, do you capture my historical data to then generate advisory reports afterwards or immediately?
Part of that. Yeah, I would not expect anyone day one using Secure Chat to know exactly how to do a workflow, right? Or a recipe or a connector, right? Now, there's some super techie people out there and they could figure it out in a matter of seconds, right? I'm not one of those people. So the first place I start is the help section. And I know what you're saying, man, help sections suck. Nobody wants to go to the help section. I get it, right? This one's actually really good. This one doesn't suck, okay? And so you have the ability to search the help section for specifics, right, on what you want. And it's very, very good, right? But even still, it's great. And you say, I don't want to go to the help. Can you help me, right? And the answer is yes, we can, right? Now, it's a fee for service, right, to build these custom recipes or these custom things, right? We can 100% help you. And, one of the things that you'll probably find is after we show you the first time how to do it, you probably have it moving forward. Correct. Yeah. If there was a particular recipe that you needed help creating, we 100% can do it. It is on top of the monthly fee. Okay.
Actually, a couple of pieces to this in addition. Like any tool, right? Pick any tool. Pick the most valuable one you've got in the organization today. When they installed it, did you know how to use it? Nope. Fast forward 30 years, assuming you've still got the same tool. Are you using every feature and function? Nope. You've probably picked the 5 that you like the best, right? We recognize that actually really clearly. And this was a big part of our journey at MIS, was trying to bring our people along. And so one of the things that we are going to do with Secure Chat is we're going to have what we call office hours. And office hours are going to be in a Zoom format where all of our customers will get access to it. And they can either bring a problem that they have, and Eric will bring a topic, and we'll say, I want to talk about connectors or recipes, or I want to show you particularly how to do a certain thing if you've been wondering how to do that. And we're gonna offer these at no charge to be able to help people learn how to use the tool, because we recognize that your journey is probably not going to be very different than ours. It's being able to educate people, it's being able to show them how to use that tool in their own certain instances. Now, with that said, we also recognize that some people are going to be like, that's cool, that's great. We don't have anybody who can do that. Can you just do it for me? And in those cases, we'll actually work with you from a BA perspective, understand what you need, and then we'll build and deliver those connectors, recipes, and packages to you. But our goal is to help bring you guys along so that you guys can really drive differentiation in, at your company, in your business. And part of that, I think, is us making an investment in you guys to be able to learn how to use those tools.
There was a second part, and there was a really good question about, I don't want to misquote, but it was essentially, will you be using the data from my tenant, from my prompts to teach, train the models at large? Was that the gist of your question?
Will you be collecting everything that I input into a secure chat about my company to then generate something that could help me either immediately or in the future
Yeah.
as an advisor?
Yep. So we do have something that we're working on that I think is going to be really valuable for everybody. And that is that we are coming up with an app store. And the way that an app store is going to work is, as we create more connectors to more applications, and to us, that package, right, is going to be a collection of connectors, pre-built recipes, pre-built packages, that you'll be able to go to a website and say, hey, we're using QuickBooks. We're going to be able to say, hey, we've already worked with a company who uses QuickBooks, and they are in the manufacturing, industry. And so here is a package that includes, X number of recipes and connectors and packages that you'll be able to go to the App Store and download and install into your tenant, right? And so as we gain experience and as we are building connectors to help people do that, if they are connectors that we think would be valuable to everyone, right? Think Salesforce, HubSpot, Great Plains, these kinds of things, we will take those connectors and put them in the App Store to make it easier for someone to be able to take and then just import and get access to all of those things, to be able to get that return on investment as quickly as possible.
Sorry, I didn't want to hear what you were about to say about if you were to collect our data or not.
Take your actual data. We would take your metadata, right? So let me give you a very specific example. Let's just say that you guys were using QuickBooks, and then there was an AR report that you would like to have, but QuickBooks doesn't have that AR report, right? And so you're like, hey, MIS, can you help me build this AR report? We'll build that AR report. And you then say, hey, this is a great report. We would then ask you, would you like to add this report to the community? And if you say, yes, I would, you can then add that report to the App Store so that maybe someone else who has QuickBooks, that they can download that report and get access to that recipe. And the other nuance to this is we've opened the App Store up in such a way that we are not the only people who can create these packages and put them in this community. We want all of our customers, as you guys become black belts in doing this, to be able to say, this is really cool. Someone else may get a lot of use out of this, and I'm gonna put this in the community so that someone else can use that. And our hope is that, rising tides raise all ships, that everybody is creating and donating to the community, and that helps everybody not only get but give. Does that help? Yeah. Thank you.
I'll I'll apologize for being a accounting guy to start with. Um, A, can you describe the pricing structure? And just to confirm, we would have the ability to opt out of, say we create a package or we pay you to create a package. We would have the ability to opt out of having that put in the community. Okay. Yeah. With 100%, you would have that ability. If you didn't want it out there, certainly would not put it out there.
In fact, by default, you are opted out. It's only if we, if you come to us and you're like, hey, this is really cool, we helped build this thing, and we would ask your permission, would you like to put this in the community, right? But by default, we're not going to do that, right? And then the pricing structure is actually really simple. The pricing structure, number one, it's month to month, right? And so if you use it and you get value out of it, great. If you use it and you're like, we just don't see how this fits, it doesn't cost you very much. That's number one. Number two, you are the administrator of this system. And so we've tied this into Office 365, their Entra ID. And the way that works is if a user goes to the website and they put in their email address, the administrator is going to get an email that says, Mike would like to be able to be added to Secure Chat. Would you like them to be added? The administrator can then go in and accept them, at which point they get added, right? So you don't have to call us, you don't have to put in a ticket or do anything like that. Conversely, if you want to remove somebody, the admin can simply go in and remove them or disable them, right? And the billing is automated and it follows whoever you have. The numbers on the billing is $40 a month per user. And then there is a token credit, and there's also a storage credit that is applied per user. And I want to get too technical, but the recognition is that every company is going to have power users that are really going to use it. And then you're going to have people who are really light. And so for that, the credits that we apply for each user are actually pooled by the entire company so that we can support people who are going to really use a ton of tokens and people who are going to use very little, right? And that way you can get the best bang for your buck. That help? Yeah. Awesome.
One of the things that, is exciting to me is the connectivity, the integrations. So, I'm one of the insurance guys, and one of the things that I struggle with a lot of times is data and finding pieces of information, right? So I'm putting together proposals for a client and I'm sure they probably sent me their square footage or their revenues or something at some point in time, right? Would Secure Chat be able to search? You mentioned web applications, but and I know Outlook. I've talked to Liam about that. But would it also be able to search through like my File Explorer, where I've got applications saved under folders, also in our potentially our management system, all at the same time, right? I send and say, have I received this piece of information from this client? And it's hitting all those pieces and searching for that information for me, that kind of thing. Does that make sense? The question
Makes sense. I don't know if you want to.
I can speak to that. So there's a yes, and a no in there. So let me try to be more specific. Anybody ever try to find an email on Outlook? Everybody think that's the most amazing experience ever, right? Terrible, right? You just can't find it. I will tell you that finding an email using Secure Chat through our Office 365 connector is really good, right? In fact, you can find emails in Secure Chat and it will tell you where it is in Outlook and you still can't find it in Outlook, right? So number one, gaining context into Outlook, it's really good. Gaining context through a connector into your insurance applications will be really good. Here's what we're shying away from, but we're being really deliberate about it. So Claude and Office 365 enable the ability for their platforms to be able to connect to your file server and search all through your files. And then people figured out how to steal that, and so they stopped it, right? So we are deliberately shying away from doing that. However, what we are doing, which I think is really important and really useful, is you can go in and pick a folder or a file, individual file, and you can upload that into our knowledge base. When you upload that into the knowledge base, what we're actually doing is we're taking that file and we're breaking it apart into what's called chunks. And then we're applying a technology called semantic search. And I promise I won't get too detailed into this. But what it does is it turns the document from a document into knowledge. And when you turn the document into knowledge, all of a sudden people can ask questions about the document. So for example, let's say it was an employee handbook. If I uploaded the employee handbook, now everything in the employee handbook I can ask questions about. Let's say we have policies and procedures. So we're a SOC 2 Type 2 certified organization, and anybody who knows anything about that, it's 1 million documents that we have to fill out and get audited every year. We uploaded all of those documents into our knowledge base so that if any of our employees had a question about, data retention or data destruction, or, what do we do in the event of a breach, or how do we handle this, or how do we handle that, all of that has been added to the knowledge base, and we can now ask questions about that. I will tell you, just between you and me, Chase, like no one else will listen to this, I promise. After the last conversation we had, one of the things I did, and I was starting to think about, one of the conversations we had was I went and I used Secure Chat to create a very comprehensive document about insurance as an industry. What are all the abbreviations? What are the questions I would want to ask if I was trying to bind coverage? What would I want? And I created this. It's really great. It's like a 300-page document. It's a fantastic document, right? But then what I did was I took that and I uploaded it. I put it in the knowledge base so that all of my people would now get the advantage of that knowledge that I put in. Now, we're not insurance agents. We don't play one on TV. But out of the conversation that we had, I thought, hey, that's a really great use case. Let me see if I could use Secure Chat to create knowledge that I didn't have. And then, to be able to put that in a knowledge base. Clint and I actually had a conversation just at the beginning of this event. And Clint is, like everyone in your organization, in every organization, right? You have a few people that know a lot, and then you have everyone else who asks a few people about everything they have, right? And Clint is one of those guys who knows a lot. And so Clint's like, I feel like I'm the bubblegum machine, right? Like every time somebody wants to know, hey, Clint, how do I do this? Now, they may have asked him this question 37 times before, but the 38th time is going to be the time, right? And so one of the things that Clint was looking at was, as I'm doing things, if I took that knowledge, those documents, and I put it into Secure Chat, what I'm really doing is I'm now taking my tribal knowledge and I'm distributing that through the organization. So now everyone not only knows the answer, but they will always know the answer to that. And I think that, if you look at your own experiences with ChatGPT, just in you using it over time, you can see that the history in what you're putting in is actually creating better answers. Think if you could do that organizationally, right? And so, yes to Outlook, yes to connectors, no to direct access to your servers, because we're worried about the compliance and the security side of that.
Yep. And just to add to that, though, in your specific example, let's say you had a folder on your network somewhere that it contained all this information, 300 documents about this one customer. And somewhere in there is the information. Yeah, grab and drop that whole folder into your knowledge base, right? Then you can query all of it however you'd like. And just a point, maybe pursuant back to the point you made about, some auditability. When I put something in the knowledge base, I have the ability to set forth the permissions on who can see it, right? Because I may want to put, my last 5 years P&Ls, right? I don't want everybody in the company to be able to have that at their fingertips, right? But I want to be able to, use secure chat to analyze it, right? I can set permissions on who can see what, right? So there's a whole lot, and I wish we had 20 hours, right? Because that's not enough time, but that would give us some semblance of how many things secure chat can do, right? It's truly amazing. It really is. And I get excited talking about it because I spend hours in it every single day, and I learn something new every single day. So, any other questions?
So on the file level access not being there, and I understand why that's great, but when you're looking at it on a development side, do you still have access to it to code with you in your IDE or in a terminal window alongside your programming, so it's helping you and working with you while you work on that?
Yes, but disconnected, right? So it's not like Claude Code, right? Not that we would never do that, but we haven't done that, right? So it's not like Claude Code. It's more like the Claude chat part.
Yes, ma'am.
Back to the pricing. So you are back to the pricing. So you are creating this knowledge base from the questions that we ask. Does that mean that if I ask the system to create an HR policy on vacation time, and some person down the road says they also want an HR policy on vacation time, do you go and pull that one that we had before and not charge us the token? Or is that, how does that work?
A little bit of a distinction too. So the knowledge base is more of a separate entity or spot to house information than just your normal chats, right? And so in this case, let's say I wanted to generate a new PTO policy. Well, I would go into the chat, right? And I would ask for it, and it provides me something. Well, just by virtue of it providing that document does not mean that it goes into the knowledge base, right? That would be searchable to whomever I'd given permissions to. Now, if I loved that policy that it provided and I want it to be part of the knowledge base because that's what we're going to adopt as a company and it's great, right? Then I could upload it into the knowledge base.
Yeah. And then I think part two of where you were asking is now everybody can use that knowledge base article and it's token free. Right? And if at some point I want to create a new one, because it's in the knowledge base, it will actually automatically increment what you've already created, adding. So I'll give you a great example. So previously we've talked to you guys like, hey, we need a BYOD policy, right? Why do we do that? Because BYOD started to become a thing. People wanted to bring their personal laptops, right? Okay, great. Now we have to take our existing policy and add a BYOD section. Okay, we did that, right? Now we're talking about, oh, by the way, we need an AI governance policy. Oh my gosh, now we got to add it again, right? And so you're going to have these incremental updates. But because that document is already in the knowledge base, what you're actually paying for in terms of token usage is the difference of the update that was made. And because those tokens are pooled, I will tell you this. When you look at, if I look at our usage, and I think we have 35 users, that monthly fee that we pay in tokens is actually really small, right? That is not a big deal at all, right? But I would want to say this, and you guys see this just like I do. When you look at ChatGPT with their $20 a month plan, there is no way that they can continue to offer a $20 a month plan because the hardware for this stuff is super expensive, right? But I think that when you look at AI, we are in what I call the adoption phase, right? And so they are selling these $20 a month plans and they're losing money on every person who signs up because they're trying to drive adoption. And even now you can see we're in a point where people are starting to talk a lot more about tokens, right? And that's because we're pricing tokens and tokens are going to become, the currency of AI. We're not there yet, right? And so we looked at that and we said, how do we make this efficient for our customers? And we came up with this idea of being able to pool included usage with the understanding that you're going to have power users. Like we have somebody in this room who's sitting at the back there who uses about 4 million tokens a month, right? I don't know what that kid's doing back there, right? But if you compare to the rest of our staff, they're using 500,000 tokens a month. And so you've got these power users who are really going to use, AI, and they're really going to, inject value. And then you're going to have people who are really light. And I think by having a pooled model like that, it allows you to really extend your spend, right?
Yeah, let me just demystify. If you're wondering, well, what does that look like in terms of a dollar amount, right? Like, what's a couple million tokens between friends, right? Most of the time, and pretty much, I don't know that I've ever seen the token usage surpass $10. I don't know, maybe it does for Will, but so that most people, that token usage is about $2, $3. Right. And so you're looking at $42, $43. It's not token usage that's $100, right? I don't think I've seen anything over 10 in a month. Right. And so just to kind of bring this home for you and make it real, right? You're not going to be looking at a, $500 token usage bill. I mean, I guess you could, but it would be very difficult.
You should go and talk to that person.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing too, if you think about it, if you're spending $20 a month on ChatGPT and $20 a month on this one and $20 a month on that one, you're already spending the $40. And so what Secure Chat gives you for $40 is access to all of the models across all of the leading vendors, plus all of these other things with the back-end connectors and recipes and packages, right? All rolled into one, which you don't get in just a regular LLM.
Okay, so I love Claude Code and I love automating a lot of stuff. And I thought that was super cool until I was using it to automate something in my email and someone almost stole a $300,000 down payment. So, um, on to your question about Claude Code, just to make sure that I understand, your version makes it to where it's like all of my data is going through a Brinks truck, so nobody can steal it between where I'm at and where it's going.
Correct, but we're not doing Claude Code, right? Just Claude Chat, right? And so, usernames, passwords, driver's licenses, all gets redacted. And what you'll actually see in the chat, it literally will take out like a driver's license and puts the word redacted, right? And then has a banner at the top that says, you have tried to enter, sensitive data in this prompt. I've redacted it. And then we put a little piece at the bottom of the chat that boils down to don't do that again, right? And so, it is sort of real-time training, like, hey, you've done something. Now, the other, and I'll camp onto what Eric said. We could sit here all day and I can tell you about all these cool things, but camping onto that, sometimes in our own use, we found that there were keywords that sounded sensitive but weren't. And so we added both a whitelist and a blacklist, right? So whitelist, obviously, hey, this sounds sensitive, but it isn't. Blacklist is, okay, maybe it's not protected under DLP because it's not a social security number, but maybe this is our internal, pricing sheet or our internal product name or product code, or maybe we consider this to be intellectual property. And as an administrator, I can blacklist that content to ensure that even if it doesn't offend me from a DLP perspective, that I can make sure that it doesn't get fed to the LLM.
Okay. Any other questions? No? All right. Well, I'm going to hand it back over to you, Carol. Liam?
Yeah, just again, if you don't mind, fill out that feedback form that's in front of you. That would be awesome. And Liam, I'm going to let you close everything out.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you guys for attending today. I really appreciate that. I did want to bring your attention to one thing, and I know we kind of have it up here. We will take this recording. It will be available on the resource page, just like we've done with all of the other AI in action events. The other thing that we have is this secure chat. This is how you can sign up. If you want to sign up, there is you go through the wizard, you sign up, off you go, right? So you don't necessarily need to call us. You can, and we're happy to do it that way. But you can sign up that way. I will tell you though, and I want to be really transparent, AI as a technology is what I'm going to call in the adoption phase. Translation, we are in the learning phase. AI is moving really quickly, right? And so I do want to be clear that, the features that we have today, the features that we have tomorrow, they change. I drive Eric absolutely insane because I sort of have two jobs. I work my day job and I got my night job, right? And as a team, as we're developing this, we are putting out new features that are pages and pages on a weekly basis based on our own internal learnings of things. The App Store was something that I think we developed last week, right? And so it's still moving really quickly. Because of that, what I'd like to say is for those folks who are signing up, for those folks who are getting involved in Eric's webinars that he's doing, this is an investment that we're trying to make into our customers to help bring you along as we ourselves are making this same journey, right? So as you guys are thinking about connectors and recipes and you're like, hey, we need help, this is something that we're trying to bring you guys along that you can do that with. And so just know that, you can go ahead and get started if you want. It is month to month. There is a trial code that I think is on one of your sheets. It's sorry, it's right here. They put it over here. So if during the sign up wizard, if you put this trial code in, it's a 14-day free trial. And so we're trying to make sure that you guys have the ability to get an experience, to start to build your understanding. It is month to month after that, but you can go ahead, sign up, click around, start to figure out, is this something that makes sense? Do we want to do this? Now, this trial code, as you sign up, no limit on users. And so if you go back and you're like, hey, I've got 2 people, 3 people, 5 people, 10 people that I think I'd want to look at this, we don't care. Go ahead. Give them the trial code. When the one person signs up, they can do it. After they sign in, the first person who signs up will become the administrator. When they go to the users page, they can simply hit the invite button, and then they can invite whoever else that they would like to participate, and they will get an email that they can then log in with. And so it's very easy for them to be able to get in and start clicking around as well. Okay? As many as you want. That's a you decision, not a me decision. Yeah. So you can, when you go into a user, you can do a couple of things. One, you can decide who's going to be an administrator, because of course that's a built-in role. But you can also build out as many groups or roles as you want. Salespeople, warehouse people, customer service. And then you can assign groups, different recipes, different roles, different permissions. But that would be something that you can build out. All right. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys coming.